Hallo, guten Morgen hier von der Boot 2024, der 6. Tag. Erfolgreiche 6 Tage liegen hinter uns und ich habe die große Ehre, heute einen sehr, sehr guten Freund und auch Geschäftspartner natürlich, Jan-Erik Vitala, hier bei mir zu begrüßen, und wir werden natürlich gleich in Englisch direkt umswitchen, und gleich kommt noch Jarkko Jämsén, der kurz leicht verhindert wurde wegen Taxi. Wir haben ja die Bahn streikt ja in Deutschland, und das hat auch Auswirkungen auf unser Live-Session heute Morgen hier. Janne, thank you for taking your time.
Thank you, Patrick.
We know you're probably one of the most busy men here on the boat show. You're doing loads of interview. All the dealers want some share of you, some time of you. Yep. And you, as a person, you have been winning a very special award 2 nights, like not last night, the night before. True. For your impressive work you have given the whole industry with your always looking forward ideas and your energy you're putting into your brand, but in fact also into the whole industry with your extreme activeness. And this is how I think we met, and that's why we so much respect each other and have been from the start, like 10 years ago.
Yep.
From my side, I can say, I think similar to you, like we have been enjoying so much to work together because we share this fast forward mode.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, for sure. So, relentless push for innovation. That's probably the short words to talk about what Axopar has been during the last 10 years in a way. The 10th year anniversary actually will officially only start in Helsinki Boat Show, because that was where we launched the first Axopar 28 ever in 2014, but we still took a bit of a preliminary or a pre-launch here in Düsseldorf, because Düsseldorf is the most international boat show for us. It's the most important boat show for us, and it's a really good kickoff for the entire year. So in that sense, the 10-year anniversary could not have started better in any way. And to me, I fully understand and I fully agree with you on the push to make boats better. And that is also why we found each other actually in the past with the other brands or with one of the other brands.
We know each other from the Paragon times.
Yes, from the Paragon times and the Nimbus times. So from there already a good relationship and the same discussions. But now, of course, with Axopar taking it even further one step.
And I have very, as it would be yesterday, I'm now thinking I'm talking like an old guy. Yeah? I'm not that, or we are not that old.
No,
yet,
we are not.
We are not. We're still having, loads in mind what we want to do. But I'm talking now. It's when we've been the first time on this boat show here, I remember it being that wall there.
Yeah, in Hall 5.
In Hall 5, but mirrored this side wall.
Yes.
And we were having at this time 5 boats there, 5 28s.
Yes.
One separately, a T-top, which then I took later to Mallorca, which was for me more or less the start into my Mallorca business. So without Axopar, no Mallorca for Boote Polch. And then we had 2 cabins and open.
Yes. So I think it was full display of 5 boats, the same range.
Yes.
Axopar 28 started the whole success of the company, and that was the one that we showed in, I think it was 2015.
Yes.
So that was the first official show of the Axopar here in Germany, and in a way the German premiere actually of the Axopar 28.
And I remember there was loads of interest. People looked at it, they understood this is something new. But I have to be honest, there was hardly no sale afterwards. So this is maybe you don't want to hear, but
No.
people, it always takes a little bit time until people understand that there's something different, something new, and in the end something revolutionary, new and better. Because then it kicked off for us. It kicked off in autumn 15 for the sales 16.
Yeah.
Then we really started selling boats. But it was not like people walk in the boat show and were saying, this is the boat I've ever dreamed of, and I'm going to buy one now.
No.
So it always takes a little bit of time with a new product.
Yeah. So when the Axopar 28 or the whole Axopar concept was launched in 2014, you had completely two different customers. So either they loved the boat and they fully understood the concept and the idea of it, or on the other side, they could not stand even the looks of it. They were just walking past.
It was a bit boxy in the beginning.
It was a bit boxy in the beginning. It was, of course, the Mark I of the Axopar 28 was made for a very, very specific purpose. And that purpose was to create one of the best commuting boats we could imagine of, with the wealth of knowledge from doing other brands in the past, in how to make a very smooth running, affordable, or great value for money, fully enclosed walk-around cabin boat of 28 foot powered with an outboard. And at that time, 2014, I would say 95% of all European produced boats, they were 100% focused on making inboard diesel engines on this size of boats. And so that's more or less from where it started.
I was not checking emails now on my phone. I was just reconnecting to, because we took, you know, as we said, we are not old, but we want to talk a little bit about history. So I just took some random pictures. Yep. We think on every picture I'm going to show now, we both have to say something about it. So Micha, you could maybe just start sharing a bit. So this is the two boats which came after Düsseldorf, yes. This was one, the cabin with, this time was not called Brabus line for sure, it was the R
version R,
yes.
R
version R with the cabin.
Yep.
And in the front we have the Axopar 28 T-top, which that was the first 28, or the first two 28s which ever hit German waters. And in fact this boat was, I think, not 100% sure, maybe Menorca was with Chris, but I would say one or second boat hitting the Mediterranean waters even.
Yeah, for sure. And in that sense, the concept of the 28 was a bit different in the beginning. So it was all about looking at how to make a boat that has the seaworthiness and the capabilities of a rigid inflatable boats. As you know, rib boats are renowned to be used by all sort of life rescue companies, lifeguards, frontier guards, coast guards. So the whole concept of the 28 was inspired by the rigid inflatable boats as a reason why the silhouette and the looks of the boat was very low, and also, as you said, a bit maybe boxy in that sense, because we also removed, of course, the pontoons from the boat. Still keeping
a little bit an idea you also had with the brand before, Paragon, where you also were very much inspired, I would say, from the rescue boats.
Yes, for sure.
This is, he will love that, seeing that. So this is one of my best friends. Michel, you are laughing. It's also one of your very good colleagues. This is in Calapi, this is in Mallorca. This photo is even a bit photoshopped. He like with his white body standing there, but it was like this picture went around the world. He's not a model. He's just a very good friend who had a day with me on the boat, and this happened this time very often, you know.
Yeah, but this is absolutely 100% Axopar life. So we are not movie stars. We are not, you know, anything special. We just love going out with boats, and we just want to live our normal lives, enjoying life in a way. So this, to me, is the perfect picture of a perfect day out at sea.
But I think many friends of us had to realize that since then there have been loads instrumentalized for pictures in a private surrounding. So when you're out with us, it can always end somewhere online.
Yes, oh yes.
This was also in that summer, we had Carlo Baroncini, like a photographer who I met on the Super Yacht Cup at this time. So I was photo boat on a Super Yacht Cup. I wanted to learn how the boat behaves. I wanted to use it a little bit like commercially to really, you know, push it. And I remember like today, I was lying in the morning there. I was very proud with my Axopar 28 and all these photographers, because I was official photo boat for the Super Yacht Cup, and all the photographers came and looked at this. There was one rib in this boat, or the 28, and they looked at it, and I said, no, this is not gonna work. We're going on this boat. So I had only 3 guys left with me on the boat, and everybody went onto the rib.
Your rib, yeah.
And these 3 guys came off board and that day and said that was the best ever ride they had on a photo boat ever. Because why? It was so dry. So what do you don't want to have on a photo boat? You don't want to have your spray, like your
camera lens
sprayed. And because then you lose the best shot maybe at this moment.
And also the stability, so that they were able to actually stand on the foredeck of the boat, handling their own gear, not holding on to the boat itself, while you were still driving, while you were still chasing a sailboat out at the open ocean. Yeah.
So I had there, I knew myself it's driving very well, but I really had at this point, you know, a very good reputation, or like people who have been on many boats in many, you know, circumstances at sea, and they just said this, they loved it. And since then we have been working a lot. This is a funny picture also in this summer. This is how I met Tom. This is Tom flying there.
Okay.
Tom, who is my business partner and one of my best friends also there. It's the first time I met him. So he looked from the Axopar from above onto it with the flightboard here in Mallorca as well. That's the same picture. This was then the first 37.
Yes, 2016.
Yes, we were together in Poland.
In Augustov.
I think there was 15 in December or something.
Yes, yes, this was very, very, very late. Yeah. So usually you always imagine to do your newest boat testing and launches somewhere in midsummer. Summer is out, it's nice weather, and somehow all our testing, all our prototype driving is usually happening in November, December, in rain, sleet, snow, ice. But that is just, well, it's
this was the CE testing that day. This is in at that lake in Slepsk.
Yes.
And that was the first time ever 37 hit the water. There was also comes now a T-top. Yes. And the first driving ever of 37.
Yes.
This was also that day. That's you there on this picture.
Yeah, we were actually doing a load test on the roof. So this was one of the CE regulative, because we were actually the first ones to launch an openable canvas roof on a cabin boat. There was no one who had ever done that. And also we needed to understand the CE regulations of what actually goes in having a canvas roof on a cabin boat, fully enclosed, that does not have any drains. So the only way to find out is work closely with the CE regulators, have a full load test on the roof.
And this was like, sorry to interrupt, this was like I think 1 ton it needed to take, and in the end you were like always like, let's do as much until we break
overloading.
And it was 1.5 or something until
and
they
it didn't break. It just made a bend. And actually the real funny part is when we took away all those sandbags, it returned into its original shape. So that was even a very interesting load test to do.
This then was the first days, the first T-top ever hitting the water the same day. And this was also then a boat which then more or less after that test
went
immediately came to Mallorca.
No, Düsseldorf.
No, the Suntop went to Düsseldorf.
Ah, okay.
And the T-top went to Mallorca because I took this boat then, my first test, to Ibiza. You remember that on the New Year. The trip was amazing. In Ibiza there was nothing. I thought big New Year party, but the trip there was my first trip with the 37.
Cool.
This was also that days before the first beaching done. Stefan Lofing, also Mallorca, color in Ietas there on the beach. These pictures also went around the world. This was the one here in Düsseldorf. This is Jinx.
Okay.
Jinx.
Remember? Yes,
Jinx was everywhere.
Yes.
The customer did like 200 hours himself the first year.
Yes.
And
driving around the islands.
Yeah, all around. He even drove it over from Barcelona.
Yep.
And that was the first Suntop. What I said that many times, until then there was no Suntop, was there? Just on super yachts on the roof, on the top, but nothing like an openable T-top. No, and then the name even Suntop was new.
Yeah, so you would in any boat more or less on that market in that time they would have a full glass fiber roof on top, so you would not get any sort of sun inside. And also in addition, what actually was the second reason why we did not want to have the full enclosed glass fiber roof is that even in warm weather you feel a bit cold, and when you're under something that is very hard of superstructure.
Especially because we're running so high cruising speed, and the water temperature is then the driving wind.
Yes,
and this
so it's more or less like reflected even back onto you, so it feels chilly to drive a boat that does not have a Suntop roof. This is something that probably those who have driven actually understands, those who haven't have it still to experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that is a question that many people ask. Can we do a fixed roof?
And this was in fact, it looked a little bit in the start, a little bit like a base cap, because it was a cabin roof, most likely.
Yes.
You could even see inside some structures of the walls.
Yes, so in terms of that was probably not one of the most best design solutions, but it was some sort of functionality there. But still, this is also a part of, we want to create something new and we want to go with something innovative. And the moment we find out that there's a better way of doing it, we actually change that pretty rapidly into a way more.
It was then a much nicer design.
Yes.
This was also one of the best pictures. I love that.
This is a classic.
Very this was not planned. We didn't drive this 10 times. Carlo was in the chopper and you know, Tom was driving the Suntop, I was driving the T-Top, and it was just a picture which came up without any driving. Then we already had, this is the two boats as well, we got already quite some media presence there, like this is the title of Boote at this time. Also these two 37s, that's also from this shooting, amazing pictures. This one as well, I really love this. Then this is the last dealer meeting in Mallorca. We're going to have one this year again. This was 2 years ago. This is the fleet of boats we have had this time. We're going to have more this time even. This was when we, at the end of the dealer days, when we were all going out. So our like Mallorca presents always suited for events like this very well, because we have always a big fleet of boats available
lying
there,
at the harbor, ready to go.
Lying at the harbor, and it's a very nice setup there in Calanova with a hotel and everything. And most of the time, you can see this is like Photoshop for Michel. It was quite dark clouds there, but you know it looks still a bit sunny. Nice. That was on the dealer days there. This is in the Puro Beach Club. All the boats lying behind.
That was a very, very nice evening actually. So rain in the morning, and then the weather clears up in the afternoon or in the evening. So very, very nice.
This was also in the Boote magazine, so it's a little bit split up. This was here the Düsseldorf Boat Show, as we said before, in 2015. So that was the T-Top, later going to Mallorca, an open boat. There's also, you know, there was not pick slips at this time. There was just wall printing.
We just did a big canvas on the next coming 37, and actually, if you look closely to it, the 37 actually never ended up looking like that.
True.
There were also some concept ideas that were playing with ideas for the 4-deck accommodation on that one as well. So great times.
That's more or less what I have here from the history. What I now want to do, like we are sitting here in between the two, the Suntop. Machst mich noch mal gerade offline hier mit dem Handy, ja? So we are sitting here between the 29 Suntop and 29 Suntop and 29 Cross Cabin. This boat we have been already driving. You have been driving probably, I don't know, 50 times already, but I was in Vasa in the favor of driving already 3 times or 4 times. And it's like it has, which I really love, that you change the boats with the layout and improve the layout, but you also even improve the driving feeling. Like the boat feels even more agile than the other boats. It speaks on the other side more stable. So how is there always still an improvement possible? Because you've already been, you know, always the benchmark of driving in my world, and I think many customers agree on this. Otherwise, you would not be so successful.
No, so well, it all comes down to a very skilled team, and it also comes down to the sheer volume of boats and models that we're developing with Axopar, and it's in a way our design philosophy actually. And now actually Jarkko, I'm seeing his beard already. 1 minute later his gestalt will come here, but now the beard is visible. But we're going to be talking about the way how we develop our products and our boats. So even the development of our 45 or the 22 will have some amount of information that we can utilize for making, for example, a Brabus boat or the Axopar 29. So we're taking findings that we find on any size whatsoever. We're getting these moved over into the next development. So it's more or less like a relentless push for...
hey, what about the...
Hi, Jarkko. Welcome, Jarkko.
Some unions are blocking Germany, so sorry for that.
No worries. It was a rough start for this morning.
I guess that. So, yeah, thanks for coming. Very
super nice to be here.
Big pleasure to have you here, because we were talking loads about history now. As you know, we're not feeling old, but somehow, you know, 10 years has been a big journey with Axopar and Boote Polch at this point. But you have been one of the biggest shares in that, even a little bit behind, I would say, not so much in the public to be viewed, but your company and your support has been, I would say, the biggest fundament on the Axopar success.
Sure. Yes, for sure. And with Jarkko, we already started very early. And of course, with Jarkko, the whole saga of the success story of Axopar actually started already from Paragon. So Jarkko, it's very interesting to see how 2 persons, personally, I would say, has also grown over this time of our 15, 16, 17 years soon together. But in addition, also how Jarkko's company has grown to become also one of the market leader in their genre. But I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk about that yourself.
Okay, thanks Janne, and thanks Patrick. Well, first of thing is it's like a super nice to be in this kind of event. 10 years, Axopar. Then I think it was super nice to see the recommendation what Janne get from the whole public in here. I think that was a big thing. I think it's well deserved, and that should be the thing. And as Janne mentioned, that yes, we have had a long story. We started as everybody quite interested, eager to do things in the boat industry. We have done many things together, and I think it's just kind of thing that we have been learning. But I think the same way as Janne has pushing this company to certain direction to be in that kind of market leader, somehow almost like a direction for the industry. We have been doing the same thing in our company, and I think, but we have been having constantly a really strong collaboration, common idea where it should be going. But for us, even we are two different companies, we have same goals and same ideas. And of course, living is learning, and we make mistakes, we do things, but then there's a thing that we have to be humble and eager to learn, and learn from the mistakes, do things again, to see what works, what doesn't work. And I think we are of course involved a lot in the visual styling, but I think the biggest difference what we can bring that there's not only the visual styling, but there's that heavy engineering behind, and that's something what we support Axopar constantly.
Yeah,
and
this I don't actually. Actually, I don't think all the customers actually understand and realize how much work and effort goes in underneath the hull, inside of the construction, in the boat, in order to make it work just as simple as it looks in a way. So that's actually one of the key things that for us is the very interesting part, is the knowledge together that we built now in how to make the boats not only we were talking about the drivability, we're going to be talking that with Jarkko later on more and more, but the whole idea of how can we keep pushing boat development so that we can make boats that are lighter, that are more fuel efficient, that are easier and faster for us to assemble, that has less waste in order to become more sustainable, and also finding this is actually something that I haven't been telling too much. People are always asking about Axopar and our work in sustainability. The number one thing which we take it so granted that we have completely forgot it. The whole idea, design philosophy of Axopar is to keep the weight low. Keeping the weight low means that we are using less materials, meaning that with Axopar, looking at many competitors, we are using almost 50% less material in the production of a boat than you can have other boats in the other halls around here. So that to me is sustainability number one. In order to create a boat that can create the same emotions on the water, do better things, but still be having way less weight, way less use of material. Then after that, adding on fuel efficiency, like on the 29 now, Jarkko, we have the recycled marine plastics, the PETs that are actually now replacing all the let's say distance materials inside of the hull. So those are also things that we haven't been probably too good to communicate yet. But to me, weight and that reduction is number one.
But I want to say something that when people when people buying a car, for example, you know that you have nowadays you're having like a suspension system which is probably enough has enough brain to fly to the moon. Probably the way to the moon was less complex with computers to bring driving a Cayenne at 250, what the suspension is doing then. We don't have that. And we're also not driving on the Autobahn with 250. We are driving always off-road. We are always on the Paris-Dakar level with the car. So there's always, and this is I think what people should realize when they're buying a boat, they're not buying like a caravan in the end, because it's not, people can do that, but then they need to realize that the way to the bay or the way to the next harbor is going to be a hassle. So always when you're buying a boat, you need to consider that every design is a compromise, and what you did as your compromise is you said we're going to build the boats on the absolute maximum, good driving,
yes.
Like good economy driving, like the driving, this whole feeling of driving and how the boat behaves, how safe it is, how few spray it gets. This is absolute on the top of all your values, and this is then his aim also to fulfill these expectations from your side.
For sure.
Absolutely, and if we think like why we have a step hull, it's not a marketing gimmick. There's a purpose. There's like a, I think Axopar has one of the highest levy coefficient in the industry. That means the efficiency of the hull, and that's really important. I think when we talk about environmental aspects, I think there's a not lot talking topic is the life cycle analysis of outboards, for example, or gasoline engines. In the life cycle analysis, it shows that there's no point to make an electric boat currently. So the thing that when we try to say what is environmentally friendly, it's a quite broad topic. I'm not going to go deeply on that topic. We can have like a severe discussions, but I think we have a company value that we try to make as good thing as possible. And that's something what we take heavily, like we take a high responsibility in that. In Axopar hull, what you said about the weight, the hull optimization, everything is almost every time when we make a new hull, we get the improvements 15% from the previous generation of Axopar. Every time we learn. But the heavy use of CFD, what we use, to really hear what you are telling as a feedback from the hulls, what we hear from the consumers. When we get that information back, we analyze that, we put it back in the new models.
And I can underline this, you know, you can put me blind into a boat and even not driving it myself, I can feel driving an Axopar. Like if you, for example, the 45, normally if you have the possibility financial wise to buy yourself a 45 footer, you're normally not the most happy man on earth, sorry, my point of view, because you have to consider that driving becomes boring. And if you're, but not on the 45 Axopar. No. So the driving, you have this possibility, you have a bigger boat, you have more space, but you still have the feeling like driving a 29 or a 37. And this is, you know, something you have to experience. You know, you have to come and go to your Axopar dealer and test these boats, because this is for me, being on the 37 helm, it doesn't matter where, on a river or at sea, you know, it's like I'm gonna start smiling. I'm enjoying any minute at the helm of an Axopar. And this is something which is for me very important, because I don't need a bus which brings me from A to B. I love boating, and then it must be good. And this is extremely good what you have developed there.
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing that we try to check the numbers constantly. We try to have the same loading in the boats. We try to check the levy coefficient are in the same level. So basically all the time the boat should feel about the same. Of course, when we get bigger, it's more difficult to make that happy fun, because there's more inertia, so it takes a little bit longer to turn, but we try our best for sure to try and make that happy smile to everybody's face.
Very good. Shall we talk a little bit about like the 29 next to us, and then we're going to show some. We're going to sneak, because something, you know, we need to sneak as well. What else of designs we're going to have on the 29? Because we are showing here on the boat show, which has been loads on social media so far, is the Sofa concept on the Suntop. So Suntop is new. Before it was a T-top. Yes. And we have a complete aft deck layout, which is new, which we really believe is the best. Is always to be questioned, but I would say for like a day boat, it's the best setup we think it is. And then on the other side,
especially with the forward accommodation, so that was one of the reasons. So usually one good idea follows another good idea, creates a third idea and a fourth idea. And I would say the 29 Suntop layout is just exactly what happened. And we more or less started from the bow with the new forward section, with the multi-cabin, and with those two very well let's say engineered, or the idea very well defined, I would say, in that way. Then it's of course to all our customers to understand and see, and for them to evaluate if they share our vision in that the same. But then it created a possibility that we don't really need to be looking at overnighting as the number one focus on a Suntop in the aft, and that created a whole other layout and setup with the Suntop.
Let's start with this. I would say probably the boat you have influenced the world market of a 28-footer the most, which is the cabin boat, because cabin boat was originally a Scandinavian boat, a boat like a commuter.
Yeah, very boring commuter, very boring, looking very boxy. Yes.
And you have been able, with the outboard concept, with the very high value for price for, never say value for price. What, like, all the ideas behind Axopar made this cabin concept being taken all over the world. Second step was then, I think, with the 37, when you came from the cabin design into the cross cabin design.
Yes.
This renaming is because on the first 37 there was also the sports cabin, which was the most sexier way, and then you said the cabin is a more commercial look. And then you took the cross cabin, where you took, or Jarkko, or your team took then these two versions together into this cross cabin, which is then, since then, the most sexy cabin looking boat, I would say, on earth, which then enables also husbands to present the boat to their family, which they know, everybody in the family knows that's the right boat to buy, but still it needs to look good.
Yeah.
And so this is a different level now with the cross cabin.
Yeah, and for me the name cross cabin actually comes from crossover, so that we're actually moving into a dimension where we are not talking about that traditional old-fashioned cabin boat. And to me, in a way, this sort of old windshield style that we had in the past on the 37, not the negative forward-looking, but the standard, that is to me already outdated old news, in my opinion, by the visuality, but also from the functionality. So that whatever we do with our boats, it's with the functionality first, and then with Jarkko making that work as form and design. So you know that on a cross cabin with the negative windscreen that is raking forward, you will not have as many reflections on the windshield as you will have on a normal standard windshield. You create a way more bigger space sensation in the front, because the roof line can now continue way forward. If you have any small amounts of rain or drizzle on the windshield, you don't need a windshield wiper even, because the wind will actually help take this away. And this is something that the ships have had for centuries.
Yes, true.
And this is something that is already like proven over time. It's now for us to make.
Any commercial ship has it.
Yes, and it's there for a purpose. You don't see these sort of windshields on any ships.
And I think it's almost more extreme. In the ships you can't even by rules have it other way.
Okay.
Yeah. So that goes in the SOLAS regulations. So there's a reason for that as well.
Yes, and also actually comes down to even load. So we can actually carry way more load on the roof in terms of safety. And even if we've seen boats going in complete adverse conditions, being able to take way more force even on the windshield.
So let's talk about some pictures you were sneaking to me this morning. We start with something everybody knows, but I just want to describe again. So we have people who maybe didn't understand it yet. So we have now on the 29-footer, we have a front cabin, which we call the multi-cabin, and we have the classical aft cabin.
Yes.
This can be being seen here. If you come on the boat show, still 4 days to go. This is like a typical cross cabin layout, but this could also be a Suntop, because you can hardly see that
it's exactly the same.
So this is the modularity which you started or invented as well.
Yep.
Another big part of the success of the modularity, but you still continue doing it and bring it even to a further level.
And I think that's super interesting that every time we try, we check what works, what doesn't work. So and this is something what is key, that we have a modular build technique, but also that we are willing to try things. And in here we were checking what are working in the existing Axopars, we are bringing them in here. We try to combine all the elements what we see are working, and then improving that even further.
Yeah, and actually, if you go back to the other picture, this is a perfect picture to when you are outside of the boat and you're looking at the forward bench with the hatch closed, and I'm saying there's a forward accommodation in this boat, you go the same way as on the old 28 predecessor. You would say there's a toilet compartment here. People will go, no, there's no space. Where do they put it? And this layout picture actually tells you the size of that multi-cabin in the foredeck. So it's actually complete two-person sleeping area for sure, fully. And I've told everybody that you need to get inside there, you need to make it into the bed module that takes you like 10 seconds and really experience that space, because it's really functional to occasional overnighting for two.
And it also has, as I remember, another extreme advantage, because you're locking off the helm from the front of the boat,
yes,
which gives you at this size, less noise, less, much more comfort on driving, yes, on this size of a boat.
And also actually something that many people don't realize, but we haven't probably been saying this too much either, the stringer system and the construction of our stringer on the 29 and already on the 28, we're talking about so robust stringers that take up a lot of space. So underneath the bed there is no other space than a huge stringer on both sides. And you see other boats that have access through the helm inside of that area. We could not do that with the stringer construction we have today, with the strength and rigidity that we're getting through that construction. And Jarkko can probably...
And I think also the stringer, but also the helm area, that otherwise we would have a quite limited helm area with the plotters in this size. So basically to have access from inside would basically mean quite a big sacrifice for the driving helm ergonomics. And that's why in the Axopar we think that's still a key. In a like 25 we didn't have other options, but in here we have the option to go it from the front because we have a walk around. So we try to always maximize all the options with what we can, but of course driver is still the key element for us. So we try to make all these spaces around that.
Yeah, and also in addition, so to understand, the first function of the forward area is for storage. And what easier way to get storage is to have your bags, put them on the deck, lift the hatch, throw them inside, close the hatch and go. So bringing any sort of bags with you inside of a cabin, it's always a bit cumbersome. So that's the first one. And then of course the whole 28 concept started from the accessibility from the outside, and we did not want to change these sort of DNA things, like you have the doors on a G-Class Mercedes. There are things that you actually do not change, even if somebody would sometimes say that the door lock on an S-Class Mercedes is nicer, but at some point we just say no, we like the clunkiness of the G-Class.
I think, but also that access point for the calving for the 37 is
unique. In the beginning, even me, I was saying, oh no, but now they went too far. But today, a 37 or a 45 without galving,
almost the standard for Axopar and innovation in that sense.
But I think in that time when we tried to make it, the reason for that was that because we have a relatively long front cabin, how we can make that access easier from inside to outside, and that was those options what we were heavily thinking. That was a long discussion with
and it was a colorful discussion at times as well, because again, doing the first concept of the galving door and just making sure that they are functioning properly, we have the rigidity there, we have everything. It's, as we're saying, we're trying things, but we're ready to try. It's also the other concept that if you want to fail fast. So in that sense, and with innovation, with driving the boundaries forward, there will always be mistakes, and it's a question of how we fix it.
Because the first 37s with the galving, I have to be honestly say, it was a little bit hard. It was some learning there. But again, nowadays, this is a proven concept. It works. There's no, it just works.
For sure.
And of course, we would like to get more time to develop everything, but that's not part of the industry. We have to be willing to come quite early. So that's basically the risk boundary where we have to live constantly. So luckily, I can be a little bit more the crazy one, and Janne has to take the responsibility more. But this is important.
Yeah.
Can you see what we see here, Michel? Can you see that? Yeah. So maybe we should talk about the concept which has been proven also in the 28 T-top a lot, which will also be available because there was no pictures shared from this, is the classic setup as we had it before with the row seating, and for sure then in the picture before, classic like a sunbed behind, a big sunbed behind, and the cabin as the cross cabin has here below. So this will be.
So this is the standard layout of the 29 Suntop. So this U-sofa configuration you see here, that's actually an option. But this is the classical Axopar way, 4 seats facing forward, the 2 helm seats actually turn around. You can have a small table in there in the middle. Now, of course, with the huge table on the foredeck, with the sociability on the foredeck, the table probably in the cockpit is not really that necessary anymore for this layout, but you know, we still stayed true to some of the basic concepts and functionalities of the 28.
So this is the view from the back?
Yeah, now if you take it with the aft cabin, but of course you can also take the boat without an aft cabin, and then as a standard you will have the layout. Okay, if
maybe I lost that.
I think I have one. If we go forward, no?
Oh, maybe I
see.
Didn't send it from the WhatsApp. Sorry.
Okay. so there's another layout. But more or less, imagine removing that section out of
complete open. It would be typically a chase boat setup also.
Yes.
Because they want the space to take a bike on board or other items.
So more or less, the raised sunbed, the top part will more or less like stay. So that element will stay, and then you will just have a bench or like a straight leaning post in there, like you have on the standard 37 actually as well. So the same concept even goes there.
So I was running fastly through something else to sneak. What is this? This is just a fender box, no?
Yeah, so one thing that we're actually pretty happy of coming up with, because of the modularity that we do together with Jarkko and thinking about new ways of operating. Always when you took an aft cabin or a multi-storage or any of the options on the aft deck, you were always deleting the wet bar. The wet bar was very traditionally always on the back on the back wall of any cabin boats, or it was a separate monument in the middle of the boat on the open ones. And we really wanted to say that, hey, we really want to have a new location for a functioning wet bar, and the 45 was the first one that actually introduced it. We have it here on the Brabus 1200 if somebody wants to have a look at how that actually looks. But this is now also that we're carrying over for the 29. So you can replace one side of the fender box, the port side, with now a top loading fridge and a sink. And this was, let's say, a decision we went through a lot, that should we have a cooker in here, what should we be doing, and we just made with the decision that if we do something, we do it proper. So we have a proper sink and we have a proper top loading fridge, and then if you want to make proper food on the boat, then we're going to have Burlewin fixings, and for example a Magna grill or a Weber grill, so there will be fixing points on the step that you can have a fixed stainless steel marine grill, like the majority of all American boats are doing,
or sailors as well.
Exactly. So this is the way to go, because now you have proper fridge and you are able to make proper food. So making anything on an open grill in the wind usually takes half an hour to make some sausages, more or less. But with a proper grill, you get the food, you get the flavor. But also in that, you can take that grill onto the beach and take it with you. So that's the whole point that we really want to be living with.
Yeah, and I think that kind of solution, when we try those, we think that they are correct answers, and as a client are going to tell, the dealers are going to tell how that...
and the customers are going to tell.
Exactly, the customers are the king in here, so they are going to tell what are the solutions, what actually work, what are the things, and this is our...
They will show that with buying numbers.
Correct, and then we are going to react on those, and then we are going to adapt if needs to adapt. Yeah. But we try to, every time we try to do our best that we serve that client. So, but it's interesting, for me, I'm almost in a memory lane here. So I was just thinking that when we did the first 37, and of course as a designer you want to make a T-top, short, sexy looking T-top, and we did that. and it was a total failure in the market. And that's why we have a quite big roofs nowadays in Axopar.
And we discussed it before. You don't even know what we talk, but we had the discussion before about the Suntop and the first cabin roof with all the walls still in the mold. And we had this discussion before. This Suntop was, you know, invented from your side. And nowadays it's you know all around that people can also sit in the back seats being protected, not only the driver and the co-driver.
But I think that's the thing also with the 29, so we come with much more knowledge as in the start, and we try to use all the expertise to make this boat, but we are still willing to listen, or we are constantly listening what is happening, how to do this, and I think, I don't know how much you have been talking, but there's a constant developing happening, there's new things coming, so we try to serve all kind of needs what are coming, also in the 29 platform.
I know it's not, I think it's not tested yet, but people will ask, what is going to be your favorite, you think, on the 29? Will it be a twin setup or a V10? What you even show us? What are you, twin guys or single engine guys?
No,
or even the 300, sorry.
I think that the thing is that depending where I'm located, single are quite optimized for this model. So if I would be in that kind of, let's say, lake environment, it would be super nice, or open sea. So, but actually the numbers we managed to pull out is that the numbers of efficiency are quite similar for both currently. So if I talk just by numbers, there's not a big difference. Like
so you would also say the V10 is in the 400 V10 would be in the same range like the twin engine setup from speed, fuel consumption.
Exactly.
So it's really a taste thing.
Exactly, it's a more of tasting. That you are not really missing anything. We have been super careful, try to optimize the thing that we have a really similar numbers in both ways.
Yeah.
And what about the
one thing on that? To me, there is a small drawback with the twin engine, and that is that you have two separate engines, and at some point these two engines will create a small droning. The engines will start resonating together, so you have a bit more engine noise from the dual engines. So those that go and have a look, what should I be buying, that's one thing, and then of course you have the servicing cost for two engines instead of one engine. So those would be the two things, but in terms of fuel efficiency cost on that part, there is no differentiation anymore.
But on the other hand, with twin engine, I have sometimes the feeling on bigger waves, it's like I have a little bit more grip at sea. You know, like when I'm having some air time or whatever, like I have two propellers in the water, which is somehow taking the boat sometimes in a grip style.
Yeah, so that's actually, if we want to go really tech talk in here, we see some manufacturers that put outboards on their existing models without optimization and making them into outboards. Just putting outboards physically on an inboard diesel boat without any thought of it. And there's a general rule, I think Jarkko can counter me in here, that one single propeller, the maximum weight one single propeller can more or less displace in an efficient way is around 3.5 tons.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Really close. You can go a little bit above that, but we try to minimize, like a loading of the engine. We have to be, if we want to keep it efficient, we have to keep the loading realistic.
Yes, and in that sense, the dual engines on a 3-ton boat, it is doing exactly that because of the efficiency or the grip or slip actually of the propeller, and the more weight you put on, it's just going to be too much for one single propeller. And that's also why you see some of the competitors that cannot in any way match the fuel efficiency of Axopar, just even from this aspect.
Yeah, I think, and this is something what we start when we always start the design. It's going to be okay, like let's say 37, 45. How many engines? We are first checking that. Okay, what kind of loading we are going to have, and this is giving the limit, the weight limit for the boat. And this is the key part where we start. Okay, how much the boat can weigh, and then we start doing that boat for that weight category. And it's quite. We are quite.
It's so much harder to do it this way than doing it the conventional way. So that is more or less the one thing why I ripped the mic off you by accident. But more or less, so this is so much harder to do it this way. But this also then comes down to the sustainability that we actually really want to keep weight down on the boats and push the efficiency.
But we're always talking about efficiency and so on, but we're also having these guys behind us. Yep. So it also, we can even transfer it. You know, it's a more powerful boat. It's not that efficient in the end than these ones, but they're probably still more efficient than 80% of the other, but because they are sharing the same hull, they're sharing the same concept, they're just doing a higher cruising speed, but still they are very efficient boats. And the second question, which I just add, can we maybe, I don't know if you can sneak that, but there's already many questions already. Will there be some ideas here again with the Bravos boat on the 29th? So will there be whatever number it will be on there?
I'll let Janne to answer this question.
It's an automatic. Good. Okay, good.
I have another question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you going to bring some of the new options from the 29 to the 37 series?
Yes.
We should repeat
it. So are we going to take... Okay, you can
it's
read
written.
it.
Okay.
So yeah, for sure. Of course, so as we already actually started the discussions today, any finding we do on a 22 is something that we can further evolve on a 45. Any crazy concept idea we did 3 years ago on a 37, for example, can actually find itself up on a 29 sometimes later. So this is the whole idea of our collaboration together with Jarkko, that this is what you see, what we've done, what has been pushed into production. You don't see our black book, you don't see our archive of crazy ideas listed in different categories, and you know, these are the things that probably are going to be fun to revisit over time, but getting all these sort of...
Maybe next 10 years, maybe next 10 years we can talk about those. No, but there's always like a massive list of different options, what are not in these boats. Yes. There has been multiple tries, things, thoughts, discussions. Does it make sense? Mock-ups being built, tried, tested. So the ideas what are in the boat, there are only these few ones. There's multiple other ideas, and then some of those might come back. Some might be always being in that hidden place.
Maybe, but as Jarkko said, these 10 years have been amazing. We really want to congratulate our dealers for the great support Axopar has been received by everyone. You being one of our key leading dealers, with also helping us with the development and building the brand together and coming up with all these ideas, and we really appreciate that. But if there's something that I would say is the next 10 years to come, those are going to be super interesting, because now Axopar is industry leader in the adventure boat genre. We can probably call ourselves that we created this genre, and now with this platform to pull from, it's going to be interesting 10 years forward.
I want to underline this really much. I remember it as today. I was with Julia sitting in my living room. We were having like these calls in the evening, not really appreciated from the family, and we were discussing your idea of using adventure as this main marketing wording for the product. And we were then like 2 days later discussing again, and I was a little bit, you know, conscious about, you know, adventure could also mean, you know, maybe people don't, maybe women don't feel so well with this, and you know, I was not the 100% fan of it, but I know.
Can I say something? I feel that you are quite often not big fan in the start.
Yes. German, yeah. Very conservative. Yeah, true. But nowadays, you know, I sometimes for fun send you, you know, picture prints of Instagram posts from brands all over this industry, which are fairly not really adventure boats at all, but they even using new wording for their marketing. So this must, for years, like, I don't know, BMW would use Vorsprung durch Technik, you know? And then it was like,
okay.
Normally you learn that very early in marketing in school, that every time you use the slogan from more or less the company who invented it, you give them power, you give them energy. So
yes.
Anytime they're doing that, we should be thankful.
Yes, that is exactly
helping us.
That is exactly. So if we just do like one short minute on this, so a lot of press are today asking, how do we see at competition? And that is the number one, because just look around this hall and how many brands are coming next door and actually close up to Axopar. And how many big manufacturers, we're talking world-leading, world's biggest boat manufacturers, working their way into the adventure boating in itself. And for that, first of all, competition for us, we're grateful for the competition because it actually keeps us sharper. It needs to keep us on the toes and to keep pushing innovation on our own. We still compete only against ourselves, but still it feeds a sort of a Finnish determination of let's improve things, let's keep, let's keep our head sharp, let's keep ourselves in shape in a way, but also in the additional part. The more brands there comes out, and we coined the adventure company and the adventure brand in a way, they are also attracting a lot of new customers for you and our dealers all around the world that have been activated by their brands. They've been faithful for their brands. Now these big companies come and say, we're also going to do adventure boating. They actually activate a lot of new potential clientele that finds Axopar, and for that we're super grateful.
Yeah, in general, there's a new way of boating, which makes, which brings a new group of people, younger people, into our market, into boating and learning how amazing it is to spend a day at sea, which has been before like a more separate, like not such big. In Scandinavia, I think it's already a very big group historical wise, but in many other countries on Earth, which even more water than you have, this is not the case.
Exactly, and I think that's the one point that more people in the boating, I think then we are doing a great job. I think that's the key, that we should just be grateful for all the competitors, everybody who is just bringing people in the boating. Yes. There will be, everybody's going to win with that. I think there's no point of trying to be because we have been learning from the past boat companies, the models what they have done. That's where we have been learning our lessons. Yes. We are doing the same thing, so it would be stupid to try to be against competition. It can be friendly competition, it doesn't have to be nasty. No. So I think it's a positive thing that there comes a lot of ideas.
Without competition there's no way forward.
Exactly, and I think also the key is that we try to make the boating as simple as possible. Even the name is adventure. We try to make it safe, comfortable, easy. That kind of everyday boating can be the adventure for yourself, your family. It can be quite extreme, but it can be also something small. But it's still your daily adventure. Yes. And that simplicity is a good thing.
And let's start then the adventure of the 6th day of the Düsseldorf Boat Show.
Absolutely, thank you.
Because we're blocking the stand already quite like over time.
Okay, super.
So, Jarkko, thank you very much.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Kiitos, Jarkko.
Kiitos.